So when I say World War III, what pops into your head? Mushroom clouds, right? Armies marching across continents? But what if the next global conflict doesn't kick off with some huge dramatic bang? What if it's already happening, hiding right under our noses, and you're already feeling it?
Okay, look, you're not hearing air raid sirens when your alarm goes off. Nobody's handing you a gas ration card. Your street looks totally normal. But a lot of analysts are saying the signs are all there. They're just not what we expect. They're hidden in the little pressures we feel every day. Like that sticker shock you got at the grocery store last week? Yeah, that could actually be tied to a shipping lane half a world away that's suddenly become a conflict zone.
So, the big question is, if it doesn't look like the wars we see in history books, why are so many experts ringing the alarm bells, saying we're already in it? Well, that's what we're going to dig into. Let's break down the evidence they're pointing to.
First things first, to even get our heads around this, we have to kind of reset our definition of world war. Because in the 21st century, it's not a war you can always see with your own two eyes. Think back to World War II, right? It was visible. You had official declarations of war, huge armies clashing, whole countries shifting to a war footing. But today, it's way, way more slippery. It's less like a single starting pistol and more like a dozen different pots on a stove, all simmering at once. You've got cyber attacks here, supply chain chaos there, a missile strike over here, and they're all starting to boil over at the same time. And the key phrase you need to know for all this is hybrid warfare. It's a total game changer. It's a strategy where all the lines get blurry. A country can be hitting you with economic pressure, flooding your social media with fake news, and launching cyber attacks, all while pretending everything is business as usual. This is the new playbook, folks. Okay, so that's the theory. But what are the actual concrete signs that this is happening right now? Well, here's a tip. If you want to know if the world is gearing up for a big fight, don't look at the soldiers first. Follow the money. Look at the budgets. And wow, this number really tells the story, doesn't it? $2.72 trillion. That's the record global military spending for 2024. That is a massive jump in just 1 year, the biggest since the Cold War. And get this, it's the 10th year in a row that spending has gone up. Let's be real. Countries do not spend this kind of money when they think peace is just around the corner. And take a look at who's opening their wallets. The US, China, Russia, they're all at the top of the list. The key takeaway here is that it's not just one or two rogue nations. The world's biggest players are all gearing up for something big, something long, and they're doing it all at once. At the same time, we're seeing teams form up. Alliances are getting stronger, almost like picking sides in the schoolyard, but with global consequences. There's this new bloc that some are calling the axis of upheaval, and they're acting like a full-blown wartime team. You've got North Korea sending millions of artillery shells to Russia, Iran is chipping in with drones and intel, and China, they're the quiet partner, supplying the high-tech parts and tools that keep Russia's military industry churning. All right, so where is all this money and teamwork being pointed? It's really focused on three major hotspots around the globe. And the scary part is they're starting to look less like separate little fires and more like interconnected fronts in one giant global struggle. Let's start with theater number one, Europe. This is where things have already gone from simmering to a full boil. We're talking about the biggest land war in Europe since World War II, and honestly, it looks like it could spread. So Russia's war in Ukraine has turned into this brutal, grinding meat grinder of a conflict. But there's a real fear that Russia's ambitions don't stop at Ukraine's borders. We're seeing Russian drones constantly poking and prodding NATO airspace in places like Poland and Estonia, testing their reactions. And at the same time, Moscow is pouring money into some truly terrifying next-gen weapons, from hypersonics to something nicknamed the Flying Chernobyl, a nuclear-powered missile that could, in theory, stay airborne forever. Okay, now let's swing over to the other side of the world, to the Pacific. This is a totally different kind of battlefield. It's a place where an entire war could be won or lost without a single traditional shot ever being fired. The name of the game here is gray zone tactics. The best way to think about it is like winning a war by 1,000 paper cuts. Each action is aggressive, it's hostile, but it's calibrated to be just under the line that would trigger a massive military response. The goal isn't necessarily conquest, it's to win by bullying and pressure. And the prime example is what's happening around Taiwan. China is constantly sending fighter jets into Taiwan's airspace just to wear them down. They're using their Navy and Coast Guard to basically surround disputed islands. They're even practicing how to cut the undersea internet cables that connect Taiwan to the world. And here's why this matters to you. This isn't just some faraway dispute. It's a direct threat to the global supply of semiconductors, the little chips that power, well, everything in your life. And that brings us to our third theater, the Middle East. This is a region that feels like a powder keg, where every single fuse has been lit. For years and years, the conflict here was a shadow war. But not anymore. Things are out in the open. I mean, just look at how fast things have spiraled. For decades, it was all proxy fights and sabotage. Then, bam, April 2024. Iran launches its first direct missile attack on Israel ever. A few months later, you have these wild covert ops, like the mass detonation of pagers. This isn't a shadow war now. It's a direct state-on-state fight. The old rulebook has been thrown out the window. So, we have these three big geographical hotspots, but the conflict is also raging on two other fronts that are completely invisible to most of us, but are absolutely essential to the way we live. Okay, check this out. Under the sea, over 95% of all the world's internet data, your emails, your streaming, all of it, travels through these massive undersea cables. Lately, those cables have been getting mysteriously cut, especially in the North Sea, and Russia is the prime suspect. Now look up into space. Countries are using lasers to blind spy satellites. They're jamming GPS signals, which messes with everything from your phone's map to commercial airline flights. These aren't accidents. They are acts of war against the hidden infrastructure that runs our world. And all of this leads to what might be the single most dangerous piece of this puzzle. The world, especially the West, seems shockingly, dangerously unprepared for the kind of conflict it's sleepwalking into. Just look at this one stat. It's mind-blowing. In 2022, the entire United States was making about 14,000 of the most common artillery shells a month. Russia, in Ukraine, was firing that many every single day. See, after the Cold War ended, Western countries took what they called a peace dividend. They shrank their armies and their defense factories. Now, that industrial base is just hollowed out. It's built for efficiency, not for a long, brutal war.
And it's not just a problem for the military. It's a problem for us, for society. Most people in the West just don't have a living memory of what a major war feels like. I mean, remember how people panicked over toilet paper in 2020? Now imagine that panic, but for food, fuel, medicine, everything. Compare that to a place like Sweden, where the government literally mailed every single home a booklet called If Crisis or War Comes, or Finland, where they never stopped training their citizens for civil defense. It's a completely different mindset.
So let's just recap the big warning signs, the symptoms of this new kind of world war. 1. Record-breaking military spending across the board. 2. The world splitting into hard alliances. 3. These non-stop, undeclared cyber and hybrid attacks. And 4. Turning things like food and energy into weapons by messing with supply chains. When you see stories about these things, you're not just seeing random news events. You're seeing the pieces of a much bigger, much scarier puzzle clicking into place.
You know, we made it through 45 years of the Cold War. A lot of that was just blind luck, a few key people making the right call at the last second. But as one expert put it, at some point, our luck is going to run out. You can almost feel the dominoes starting to wobble. And the only question now is, can anyone study them before they all come crashing down?